Very good morning to all of you, wherever you're watching us from. My name is Teacher Caleb Nyakundi, and I am here today specifically to take you through social studies lesson for the primary school students, specifically class 7. However, this lesson can also be invaluable for the grade 4, 5, 6, and 8 students in primary school. So I welcome you to join me in this interesting lesson where I'm going to have a look at the third topic in social studies, which is social relations and cultural activities. Social relations and cultural activities. So social relations is the way we relate with one another in our communities. The way we relate with one another in our communities is called social relations. And culture, as you might have learned before in your grade 4, in your grade 5, is the people's way of life. Culture is the people's way of life. So I'll start by defining culture. So culture is the people's way of life. That means the food people eat in our community, the way they dress, the songs and dances they practice now and even in the past. But in this topic, we are going to look at the past for it to inform the present and even the future. In the National Goals of Education, we have one goal that says that actually education is supposed to foster good moral values inculcate good moral values in the pupils. And therefore, this is one topic that seeks to achieve that national goal of education, social relations and cultural activities. Let me take you to the advantage of the grade 4 learners, 5 and 6 who are watching through a quick reminder of what we do in this topic, because it's a topic that runs across from grade 4 to grade 8 on what we do usually in this topic in the other grades. Now, in grade 4, under this topic, you learned about moral values. Moral values. That is grade 4. Grade 4, you learned about moral values. And what are moral values? These are rules that guide our behavior in society. Rules that guide our behavior in society are called moral values. They include respect. That is what you said in grade 4. They include love. They include responsibility. We have things like honesty. We have justice. We have generosity and so forth. So there are many moral values that you must have tackled in grade 4. Then you learned the importance of moral values. The importance of each of these moral values is another thing that you said. And these moral values, they promote what they are. Respect promotes respect in society. Love promotes love and harmony in society, while responsibility promotes itself. Honesty promotes integrity in the society, and justice promotes justice and good habits in society and good judgments. Now, you also talked about traditional foods. Traditional foods. That is in grade 4. Traditional foods. Here, you must have tackled traditional cereals, you must have tackled things like arrowroots, honey, milk, and we have sour milk, which is different from community to community. Traditional foodstuffs. Then another thing that I'm sure is in grade 4 under this topic is dressing. Dressing. How people from various communities dressed. And what could really guide the dressing of people from various communities is the occasion in which they were dressing for. Here, you must have talked about ornaments. For example, for the Maasais who are known for ornaments. And the occasions and which dresses were supposed to be, or which clothes were supposed to be used for which occasion. Then, another thing that is addressed in grade 4 is songs and dances. Songs and dances. These songs and dances in our African communities are usually called folk songs. There were various dances according to the occasions. So the occasions, you also learned them in grade 4. And I'm going to come to that. Now, after this, you also learned about traditional medicine practices. Traditional medicine. Traditional medicine practices. Traditional medicine practices, you talked about various plants that were used, or various roots that were of plants that were used as medicine. And you also must have talked about medicine men who taught their skills to the young ones through things like apprenticeship and other things that you later learned in grade 4. Now, the ceremonies and festivals are also tackled in grade 4 under this very topic, festivals and ceremonies. Festivals and ceremonies. And to just remind you, some of the common festivals and ceremonies that took place in the past included birth and naming, the ceremony. Another ceremony that was very important is initiation. Initiation is transition. Initiation and initiation is transition from childhood to adulthood. Transition from childhood to adulthood is called initiation. For boys, it is through a process called circumcision. We will also learn that some communities actually practiced circumcision for girls, which is not a good thing and which is discouraged. It's one of the cultures that we should not preserve. That is taught in grade 5. Cultures, aspects of culture that need to be preserved and aspects of culture that do not need to be preserved. And that's one of them, female circumcision. Importance of working together. Importance of work. That is another thing that is tackled in this topic in grade 4. Importance of work. Work brings about unity. Work brings about harmony in the community. People coexist when they work together. And many other things that are related to work. So this is the whole topic, a summary of this topic in grade 4. Then we go to grade 5. In grade 5 now, you see this topic is the same, but the content continues to become wide and wide as you go up. So in grade 5, the first thing that we learn in grade 5 is the traditional forms of education. Traditional. Now this is grade 5. Traditional forms of education. Now, education in the past was not formal. It was not formal. So people never used to go to school, okay? And people learned in places like under the trees, in grazing fields, around the fireplaces, and many other places. The traditional forms of education skills could be transferred from one person to another through the following ways. The first way through which skills could be transferred from one person to another is apprenticeship. Apprenticeship. An apprenticeship is like see and do. You observe a skill, so it's observation skills. You observe a skill being practiced, then you practice the skill thereafter. So children could learn skills like medicinemanship from experts through observation, and that is called apprenticeship. One of the skills that were used to pass knowledge from experts in the society to the young ones. Another way that education, another form of education in the traditional African communities was through storytelling. Storytelling. Children could be told stories. These stories could have moral values that the ones who told the stories could like the children to have. Then we had proverbs and riddles. Proverbs and riddles. These are wise sayings that were usually used to warn, to praise good character. Okay? Then we had songs and dances. Songs and dances. In the songs that were sung, there were meanings, there were good values that children learned from the songs that were sung in the past. They were used as a form of education to transfer knowledge from generation to another. In grade 5, you also talked about something we call cultural artifacts. Cultural artifacts. Cultural artifacts. So what are cultural artifacts? Or what is an artifact? Because we say cultural, and I told you that culture is the people's way of life. So an artifact is an object used for human craft. An artifact is an object used for human craft. It could be a musical instrument. It could be a farming tool. Objects, it could be an ornament. Objects used for human craft are called artifacts. And what are some of these cultural artifacts that you learned in grade 4? Ornaments, which were known for given communities. You learned other cultural artifacts like weapons. Weapons, for example, the skill of blacksmithery was used to make weapons for warriors in various communities. In case there were raids, they could use arrows to defend themselves. So artifacts are objects made for human craft. Farming tools. Farming tools. Then musical instruments. Musical instruments. The musical instruments are not the ones that maybe you're imagining you see today, like the piano, the guitar. No, they were the cultural musical instruments like the drums. We had the obokano, we had the nyatiti, we had the marimba, and many other musical instruments from the past. And even nowadays they are there, but not as much as they existed before. Then another thing you must have tackled in grade 4 is age groups and age sets. Age groups and age sets. So what is an age group? An age group is a group of people who were born at almost the same time and initiated at the same time and married at almost the same time. A group of people born at almost the same time, initiated and married at almost the same time. These people formed an age group. Age sets, therefore, is 2 to 4 age groups combined. 2 to 4 age groups combined. When 2 to 4 age groups are combined, they form an age set. But an age group is, as I said, a group of people who are related by, who are born almost at the same time. So that is first. Second, they were initiated at almost the same time. And third, they married at almost the same time. And we had age sets. I know you learned age sets in the Agikuyu community. You learned age sets in the Kalenjin community. Those were the very famous communities for age sets. In Kalenjin community, for example, you learned various age sets like Maina. You learned Chumo. You learned Kaplelach. You learned Kimnyige. You learned Kipkoimet. You learned Nyongi. And many others. So these age sets and age groups were a division or a unit of society in the traditional African communities. And today I'm going to talk something related to this in my grade 7 lesson. Just doing a recap of what you have done in the previous classes to the advantage of those who may be watching us and are not grade 7s. Now, in grade 5, as I had said earlier, you also learned about the aspects of culture that need to be preserved. Aspects of culture that should be preserved. Aspects of culture that should be preserved, they include the traditional foods. They were now, you now acquire them from grade 4, the traditional foods. Aspects of culture that we need to preserve, our mode of dressing, our good mode of dressing as our culture dictates. Another thing that we need to preserve, boys' circumcision. It's a good thing. Boys' circumcision is an aspect of culture that we should preserve. Respect, and respect for elders. In the past, we used to respect our elders, and that is a good aspect that you, my students who are watching me, should preserve. And I told you in my preamble that this topic actually seeks to achieve the national goal of education of fostering good moral values in you as future and young citizens of this country. So then you also learned now the opposite of these aspects of our culture that we don't need to preserve. And I said one of them is the FGM, the female genital mutilation, that is the female circumcision. We don't need to preserve it. Another aspect of our culture that we don't need to preserve is raids, war and raids. Another thing that we don't need to preserve is witchcraft, some communities practiced witchcraft, and that is a bad aspect of culture that does not need to be preserved. Then you also learned in grade 5 interaction in the past. Interaction. I have just shortened it, but it is actually supposed to be interaction among Kenyan communities in the past. So how did Kenyan communities interact in the past? Various ways, through birth and naming ceremonies, through in times of celebrating good harvest, in times of songs and dances. After a long day's work, they could gather and sing and dance. People could gather in a community and interact. So to interact is to meet. To interact is to meet and maybe do some activities together. But nowadays, so you compared then in grade 4, interaction in the past and interaction today. And interaction today is different to some extent, because people don't meet at the same place that where they used to meet in the past. So where and how do people meet nowadays? So one of the ways in which people interact nowadays is through social media. Social media, people meet through WhatsApp, people meet through Facebook, and other social media handles. You know them better than I do. People also meet through national media, like this one here. I am interacting with you. You are at home. I'm in the studio, but we are interacting. So interaction today has changed. Is not the same way it was in the past. And one of the common ways in which people interact today is through media. Nowadays, people can interact with, you can be seated with someone nowadays, and they are busy on their phones talking with somebody who is very far, but they are not talking to you who is near them. It's very funny, but it is about change, because our cultures change, our ways of life change, and therefore interaction today has also changed. So then you compared interaction in the past and interaction today. So similarities and differences, I've told you some of the differences. The similarities is things like trade. People interacted through trade in the past, they still interact through trade today. They interacted in marriage ceremonies in the past. Even today, they interact through weddings and marriage ceremonies and activities. They interacted through sports in the past. It's only that the sports are different. The sports in the past were things like wrestling, but nowadays they interact through sports like going to stadia to watch various games. Basketball, we have soccer, and many other games. So sporting activities also bring people together to interact. So that is the interaction in the past, and you also had a look at interaction today. You compared the similarities and differences, and that marked the end of this topic in grade 5, sorry. Then we move on to grade 6. Under the same topic in grade 6. So grade 6 is not as wide as the other classes when it comes to this topic. Grade 6, only a few things are covered. First is the family. The family. So then here, the first thing we need to do when we are talking about the family is asking ourselves, what is a family? A family is a group of people who are related to one another. Let me write for you. A group of people related through three ways: through blood, marriage, or adoption. A group of people related through blood, marriage, or adoption. That is how you defined a family in grade 6. And then you said that there are three ways in which people can be related in a family. One is through blood, like siblings. The second is through marriage, like a husband and wife. Then that is through adoption, parents and children who are adopted. Now, sometimes also parents can be adopted. You can adopt a parent, and the children can be adopted. So when we talk about adoption, it does not only, it's not one way. It does not only mean children are the only ones that can be adopted. The children adopt a parent, and a parent adopts a child. Then you learned about the types of families, and there are three types of families. Let me do a quick reminder. Types of families. It is important. The first one is a nuclear family. The second one is an extended family. And that is a single parent family. Nuclear family, extended family, and a single parent family. What brings the difference between the three types of families is the members of these families. A nuclear family consists of parents and children. The children or the parents could be adopted. An extended family, so I said parents. So both husband and wife. Extended family is one that includes the other family members or relatives. So it's parents, children, and relatives. It could be cousin, it could be aunt, uncle, grandmother, grandfather. That is extended. Then we have the third family, which is common nowadays. It was not common in the past, but nowadays it's common, which is a single parent family. A single parent family is where we have one parent and the children. It could be the mother and the children, which is very common, but it could also be father and children. The parent is one, and the parent has children they are raising. That is called a single parent family, and it's actually acknowledged as one of the three types of families. Now, then you also talked about the needs of a family. Needs of a family. The needs of a family. Under the needs of a family, you learned that the needs are classified into two. We have basic needs, and we also have secondary needs. Basic needs, and we have secondary needs. Let me just, so you will write basic needs, and we also have secondary needs. So, what are basic needs? Basic needs are those needs that we need for survival. We need them to survive. And secondary needs, we need them after we have first satisfied basic needs. So the basic needs are the secondary needs are very many. Secondary needs are very many, but the basic needs are four. First is food. And this period of the COVID-19 is making people realize the basic needs, because those are the only things that you need right now. When you are indoors, you need food. You need shelter. You need shelter. Then you need clothing. You need clothing. And the last basic need is medical care. Medical care. When you are sick, you go to hospital and you are treated. So these are the things that you need for survival: food, shelter, clothing, and medical care. The rest are secondary needs. Now the rest will include love. You need love. You need to be loved by your parents. You need education. That is a secondary need. That's why you are not going to school right now, because you don't need education for survival. But as a teacher, I really think education is needed for one's survival. It's only that it is not a basic need. Because I don't think, or I don't imagine how you can survive with ignorance. Education is therefore necessary, but it is not basic. It is not basic. Without it, you will not die, but you will be ignorant. Now, you also learned about the responsibilities of family members. I want to go a bit faster so that I can tackle the grade 7 topic that I want to tackle today. Responsibilities of family members. And these responsibilities of family members are classified into two. We have those for parents and we have those for children. Each has its role to play. For example, the parents, and the main responsibility of parents when you're asked in an exam is to provide the basic needs. That is the main responsibility of your parent. So if your parent does not give you a car, buy you a phone, that is not his most important responsibility. As long as your parent has provided you food, shelter, medical care, and clothing, then that is his or her main responsibility. I think education comes highest in the secondary needs. So, the children, the responsibility of children. One, we have obey their parents, respect their parents, protect the family property, okay? So you don't go destroying property in your home. You have to provide. You have to take good care of family property. You learned also the family, and you learned the school in grade 6. Under the school, you talked about the school motto. You talked about the school routine, and the school motto is a statement, a short statement that advises the beliefs of a school. You talked about the school routine, talked about the school timetable, and the last thing you looked at that in grade 6 is the clan. So in grade 6, there are 3 subtopics: the family, the school, and the clan. Under the clan, you defined a clan, and a clan is a group of people who have a common ancestor. A clan is a group of people who have a common ancestor. Then you talked about the functions of a clan. In the past, it was to settle disputes. In the past, to divide land for farming communities, okay? Such like things. They conducted rituals like circumcision, incision. You see, incision and circumcision are not the same. Incision is the transition from childhood to adulthood, but circumcision is different. It is actually, circumcision is one of the processes of initiation. So, functions of a clan and formation of a clan. How a clan is formed. And in most African communities, actually the Kenyan communities which we are looking at in that grade, a clan was mostly formed by the man or by the father. Except for one unique community, the Agikuyu of Kenya, which formed their clan from their grandmother. So their lineage, their formation of clan was different from the other communities, and that can be traced back to their great ancestor, who they call Mumbi, who was a woman. So it is actually one of the few African communities that form a clan from a woman. The rest formed clans from men. So today, what do I want to teach you, the grade 7s? So today I'm going to tackle the first subtopic under this topic in grade 7, which is marriage. Marriage. The institution of marriage. So marriage is the first subtopic under that topic in grade 7. So we have defined culture, we have defined social relations. I'll not go back. I'll go straight to marriage. We have defined family. Marriage is formed from, not marriage is formed. Family is the one that is formed from marriage. That is how it should be. Family is formed from marriage. So that is why we learned family first. Then now we are doing marriage. And our family is the basic unit of society. Basic unit means the smallest unit of society is a family. And a family is formed when it starts with a marriage. So what is marriage? Marriage is a lawful union. Marriage is a lawful union between an adult man and woman. Marriage is a lawful union between an adult man and woman. There are words there that I want you to note. First is lawful. So marriage is in the law. Then adult man and woman. For a person to marry lawfully, they must be adults. And an adult in Kenya is one who has reached 18 years of age. 18 years and above. When you reach 18 years, then you are considered to be an adult. So you cannot marry while you are under 18 years, even if it's willingly. You will not be allowed by the law. Actually, you will be arrested if you try to marry while you are under 18 years, even if you are getting married to a person who is an adult. If you yourself is under 18 years, you will be arrested because you will be going against the law. And this is a current, a contemporary issue in Kenya today, where we have a lot of early marriages and teenage pregnancies. It is against the law to marry if you're not an adult man or an adult woman. So marriage is therefore a union. So why do people get married? The main reason for marriage is companionship. The main reason for marriage is companionship. The main reason for marriage is companionship. Now, companionship is giving each other company. Another reason for marriage is forming a family. Forming a family. So, forming a family, that is called procreation. Also procreation. is companionship. Actually, I should put them in one sentence because it's just one reason, is companionship and procreation. And is companionship and procreation. So those are the two reasons why people marry. One, to have companionship, and two, to procreate. To procreate is to give birth to babies like you so that teachers may have work. We continue teaching you. So imagine if people stopped procreating, I would lose my job today. So procreation is good. It ensures continuity of people and family. So there are types of marriages in Kenya, and there are three. None. Oh, another thing that I needed to emphasize, that marriage, lawful marriage that is recognized in Kenya is only between a man and a woman. There's no other thing that is in, the same gender cannot marry, and that is not marriage. Marriage is only strictly between an adult man and an adult woman. Anything else is not considered marriage, at least in Kenya. Now, marriage types of marriage or marriage systems. The best word to use is systems, because these are actually systems. Marriage systems. There are three marriage systems in this country. First is customary marriage. Customary. Number two, we have a type of marriage that is called civil marriage. Civil marriage. And number three, we have a religious marriage. So those are the three types of marriage that we have. We have customary marriage, we have civil marriage, and we have a religious marriage. So what is customary marriage? I'll start with customary. Customary marriage. So customary marriage is also called traditional marriage. It's also called traditional marriage. This is where people get married according to the traditions of their culture. According to the traditions of their culture, that is called customary marriage. So, how is it? So, first, it is conducted according to the traditions or customs. It is conducted according to the customs of a community. So it will be different in Agikuyu, it will be different in the Luo community, it will be different in the Luya community. So it is different. It varies from one community to another because the customs of communities are not the same. Then it is presided by elders. It is presided by elders. It is presided over by elders. It is presided over by elders. Elders are the ones who join these people in matrimony. Then dowry is paid. Dowry is paid according to community customs. Dowry is paid according to community customs. There are some communities, like where I come from, dowry is paid in terms of cows. So you will buy cows, and then you will take to the woman's community. Then before you are allowed to proceed with your customary marriage. So what is dowry? Dowry is an appreciation, a token of appreciation that is given to parents of the bride by the groom. The groom gives a token of appreciation to the parents of the bride. But in India, the culture is different. And this is now what we call culture, the people's way of life. It varies from one community to another. In India, for example, when you marry, it is the men who are given dowry. It is the groom who is given dowry. So dowry is given to the groom's family by the bride. How about that? So I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea. It's a culture we should copy to our own here. It is not a bad culture. So dowry is paid according to our communities in Kenya. It is the groom who pays dowry to the bride. That is at least before we change to the Indian culture very soon. So it also allows, another characteristic of this customary marriage is it allows polygamy. It allows polygamy. So customary marriage allows polygamy. It allows polygamy, and polygamy is marrying of more than one wife. Marrying more than one wife. You can marry 2, you can marry 3, 10, as much as you can take care of. It is allowed in customary marriage. Another thing that is allowed in customary marriage is, another characteristic is that this marriage does not have a marriage certificate. It does not have a certificate. You are not given any document to show that you have been or you are married. Then we have another type of marriage, that is the civil marriage. Civil marriage is different from these two types of marriages. So civil marriage takes over and takes place in a government institution. Oh, not institution. Takes place in office. Takes place in a government office. It takes place in a government office. It does not take place in church. It does not take place in elsewhere, in a mosque. It actually takes place in a government office. So, it is presided over by a government officer. It is presided by a government officer. The government officer could be an attorney general, But because the Attorney General in Kenya is only one, he will not preside over all the marriages in Kenya. And Kenya people like to get married. Huh? They marry even during COVID, they were stopped from getting married and they complained. They want to get married. So there are very many marriages in Kenya that cannot be presided over by one Attorney General. So he sometimes delegates the authority to district commissioners, and therefore it will take place in a district commissioner's office after, of course, you have signed some documents and exchanged vows. Another thing about this civil marriage is that it is strictly monogamous. It is strictly monogamous. So if you are polygamous, or if you want to marry more than one wife, then this is not your marriage. You should maybe go to customary marriage or religious marriage in Muslim. But Christian marriage is also monogamous. So civil marriage is strictly monogamous. Strictly monogamous. Monogamous means only one wife is allowed in such marriage. Then the couple gives 21-day notice. The couple gives 21-day notice. You must give a notice that you are going to get married, so that 21 days also means 3 weeks. So that in case you were married before, the person you are married to can come out and complain to the government, because this marriage is strictly monogamous. You're not allowed to marry a second or third wife unless you divorce the first one in a court of law. In a court of law. Or in the same office of the Attorney General where you were united. So it is the couple should give a 21-day notice and marriage certificate is issued. It is a very official marriage. I told you it takes place in an office. A marriage certificate is issued. A marriage certificate is issued. So those are the characteristics of civil marriage and customary marriage. So I'll have a look at the last one, which is religious marriage. And in religious marriage, I'm going to have a look at the two major religions in our country. I'm not saying those are the only religions we have, but they are the two main ones, meaning that most people in our culture and in our country subscribe to those religions, to that religion, sorry. So the first one is Christian marriage. And then the second one I'll have a look at is the Islam marriage. So, but I may also decide to have a look at all of them in a lump sum. So then I'll refer to it as religious marriage. So we have religious marriages in Kenya. Religious marriage. Now, a religious marriage does not take place in an office. It takes place in either a church, a mosque, a temple, such like places. So it takes place in religious institutions. It is conducted in church, mosque, or temple. Sometimes even shrines. It all depends with your religion and where you go. So, the other thing about this kind of marriage is it is presided over. It is presided over by a religious leader. It could be a pastor, it could be an imam, or any other religious leader. It is monogamous except for Islam, which allows a maximum of 4 wives. It is strictly monogamous, except for Islam, which allows a maximum of 4 wives. Vows are exchanged. Vows are promises. Vows are exchanged. Then bride price is paid before marriage. Bride price is paid before marriage. Those are the characteristics of religious marriages. So that then brings me to the end of my lesson today. Let me have a look at the questions that you have sent me so that I'll answer a few before I conclude. So, let me see whether there is any question. Okay, here are questions. What is the difference between, it's Chichi. Chichi is asking, what is the difference between cultural and social activities? Social activities are the way we relate with one another, the activities we do when we relate with one another. So a social activity could be things like sports, but cultural activities are from the past, from our culture or from our way of life. Like marriage, how we marry in our culture, how we name our young ones when they are born. Those are cultural activities. Karen from Kitui. Is trustworthy a moral value? Trustworthy. It's supposed to be trustworthiness. Trustworthiness. Trustworthy is an adjective. Trustworthiness is the noun that is formed from that. Yes, it's a moral value. It is the same as honesty or integrity. If I may ask, what determines the culture? What determines culture? Now, culture is determined by our customs and our beliefs. Customs are the rules that guide us on how we behave and how we do our things. And our beliefs are those things that we believe are right. Those are the things that determine culture. How are you, Mwalimu? I'm Ham from Nairobi. So my question is, what is the difference between initiation and circumcision? Now, initiation is the transition from childhood to adulthood, while circumcision is the surgical procedure that boys undergo to have their foreskin cut. That is in plain words, so that you may not be confused. Incision is the process. Even girls can undergo initiation, but without being circumcised. To be initiated means to be taught how to behave as a man or to be taught how to behave as a woman. So, another one is asking, I'm Eliza from Mikuyuni Valley Academy, Kitui County. Can you mention cultural values which should be discouraged in Kenya? I mentioned them. I said one is witchcraft. Another one that I said is the female circumcision. It should be discouraged. And wars and raids. Wars and raids for pastoralists or for livestock keeping communities, mostly. This one is asking, can Peter from Chuka, is civil marriage conducted the same way as the religious marriage? No. The differences are that civil marriage takes place in a government office and religious marriage takes place in church or mosque or whatever religion you go to. Then the precision, who presides over, you see, in a civil marriage is presided over by a government officer, while a religious marriage is presided over by a religious leader. So there are quite some differences, strictly monogamous in religious, and this was a KCPE question where they were asking which marriage is not monogamous, is not polygamous. Is not polygamous. Then they gave religious marriage and they also gave civil marriage. There, a clever student should have understood that religious marriage is not only restricted to Christian marriages. So religious marriage is polygamous in Muslim or in Islam, but civil marriage is strictly monogamous. So there are many differences, even in the way they are conducted. Ken Peter is asking, when you marry two wives, as you said, will you give the dowry to the different parents in customary marriage? Yes. That's why I said as many as you can afford. So if you can afford to pay bride price and keep two, you marry two in customary marriage. If you can afford 20, you marry 20 in customary marriage. Although, personally, I believe in monogamy. I believe in monogamy because I am a Christian, and I therefore believe in Christian marriage. So, but if you decide you're going the customary way, then you have also to prepare to pay dowry to the various families where you're marrying from. A very good question, Ken Peter. This one is asking, Maxwell Munyiri from Madeira, can you marry in both custom and civil at the same time? Oh, can you marry in custom? Can you marry civil and also marry customary? In the customary way, it is not allowed. If you do civil, you will not be allowed by law to marry another wife, whether through religious means or whether through customary means. So there must first be a divorce between the two partners before you can proceed to marry in any other way in civil marriage. I want to thank all of you that have been following our lessons. Keep following our lessons on KUTV. The program is Elimu Live that comes to you every weekday from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. See you next time and have a good weekend ahead.